Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're tuning in, you already know that network and infrastructure automation isn't just a luxury anymore, right? It's literally an absolute necessity for scale. But here's the catch. As our systems get faster and infinitely more complex, we're finding out the hard way that automating unmanaged, inefficient processes just scales your errors at lightning speed. So today, we're setting the stage for a really critical deep dive. We are officially moving away from the risky Wild West days of cowboy coding and establishing a rock-solid, controlled enterprise practice. We call it the Automation Governance and Control Framework.
To really grasp why this is so urgent, let's just look at a number: 92 million. Back in February 2024, an AT&T employee pushed an erroneous configuration into the production network during some routine maintenance. You know how long it took for the entire network to shut down? Exactly 3 minutes. That outage lasted over 12 hours and blocked 92 million voice calls. The root cause? The deployment completely bypassed the peer reviews and approval processes that absolutely would have caught the unapproved change.
And honestly, it's not an isolated incident. Consider this next number, 10 million. In November 2023, just a routine software upgrade at a Singtel exchange ended up causing abnormal routing information to just flood the Optus network down in Australia. A single, unreviewed configuration change propagated totally unchecked across a national network. Routers hit their safety thresholds, automatically disconnected, and literally took down internet and cellular services for 10 million Australians. It critically affected trains, emergency services, the whole shebang.
Let's drive the stakes home with one more massive number: 560 million. In mid-2024, attackers used credentials stolen through malware to log right into Snowflake cloud environments. The Ticketmaster breach alone exposed 560 million customer records. The glaring issue here? Some of those stolen credentials, which were used by automated systems and users, actually dated back to 2020 and had never been rotated. Without governance, credentials basically become ticking time bombs.
Okay, let's dive into this. To prevent these exact disasters, here is our roadmap. First up, the end of cowboy coding. Second, ownership and documentation. Third, access control and secrets. Fourth, controlled change management. And finally, number 5, the Enterprise Automation Standard.
All right, Section 1, the end of cowboy coding. We are officially moving away from unmanaged scripts.
The era of untracked Wild West automation is officially over. For years, automation kind of just meant an engineer writing a quick script on their personal laptop to solve a localized problem. That is cowboy coding. Ad hoc scripts, bypass peer reviews, and hard-coded credentials scattered everywhere. It's total operational chaos. To fix this, we have to rely on the Enterprise Governance Standard. We're talking a centralized platform, version-controlled code, strict peer review, and least privilege access. Speed is incredible, sure, but as those outage numbers proved, speed absolutely cannot come at the expense of safety.
So why is this massive shift happening right now? Well, large language models have fundamentally blurred the coding barrier. Today, an IT ops engineer who has literally never touched code before can just generate a Python script to automate firewalls across hundreds of nodes in a matter of minutes. That's a real game changer. But when anyone can create automation, the risk multiplies exponentially. Governance is no longer optional. It's an absolute necessity.
Which brings us to Section 2, ownership and documentation. Moving from script sprawl to real accountability.
We absolutely have to move from unmanageable script sprawl to strict accountability. What does that mean? Every single piece of automation must have a name attached to it. So, what does an automation owner actually do? They maintain the code, review defects and enhancements, keep the documentation up to date, manage dependencies, and coordinate production releases. Think about it. Without a designated owner, a script just running quietly in the background becomes a ticking time bomb. Because when the underlying infrastructure inevitably updates, that orphaned script is going to break, and nobody will have a clue how to fix it.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core rule. Orphaned scripts lead to operational chaos. Documentation is literally just as critical as the code itself. The purpose, the scope, required inputs, expected outputs, and rollback procedures, they all must be crystal clear. Unowned automation must go. If it lacks a defined owner and clear documentation, it simply shouldn't be running in your production environment. Period.
Let's move on to Section 3, access control and secrets. It's time to implement some strict boundaries.
To directly address the massive security risks we saw in that Snowflake breach earlier, we need to implement least privilege. This means granting users, and critically, automation agents, only the absolute minimum permissions required to perform their specific responsibilities. Look, if a script only needs to read a single configuration file to check for drift, there is no way it should ever run with full network admin rights. If that script gets compromised or malfunctions, the blast radius is contained by its limited access.
In practice, least privilege means ruthless restriction. You must implement role-based access control and restrict those production credentials. Crucially, enforce strict separation of duties. The engineer writing the code should definitely not be the same person authorizing its deployment into production. And while it should go without saying, we all know it happens, never, ever hardcode passwords or API tokens directly into your scripts. They have to be managed dynamically and securely, with periodic access reviews to ensure things actually stay that way.
Right, on to Section 4, Controlled Change Management, bringing structured workflows to our automation.
To solve the bypassed approvals that cause those massive AT&T and Optus outages, direct-to-production cowboy commits are just no longer acceptable. Every automation change needs a strict, auditable pathway. You start by branching the code for your proposed change, test and validate it, and then submit a pull request for visibility. Then comes peer review, obtaining the necessary operational sign-offs, and finally deploying through an approved process where every single action is logged.
So the crucial point here is that peer review step. A second set of eyes isn't just looking for typos, right? They are verifying the automation logic, ensuring device targeting is super precise, and checking input validation to prevent those catastrophic errors. They review error handling and logging. They're confirming secure credential management and making absolutely sure rollback procedures actually exist if things go sideways. This is essentially your primary defense mechanism against self-inflicted outages.
Now for our final piece, Section 5, the Enterprise Automation Standard, scaling safely in the AI era.
To bring all this together and scale safely in the AI era, governance requires the right tooling. You need a centralized automation platform to kill off those random scripts scattered across personal laptops. You must use version control, like Git, and maintain continuous observability and audit logs to track exactly who did what, when, and where. You need a single source of truth for your inventory, and honestly, you should build a curated library of shared, reusable scripts so nobody has to reinvent the wheel every time.
Ultimately, the goal is not to control everything. It is to make sure the things that matter most are never changed without the right people knowing about it. Governance isn't about slowing engineers down. It's about establishing safe, reliable boundaries that allow your business to scale confidently without breaking its own foundation.
We've seen how easily unmanaged automation can cascade into multi-million-dollar outages, and we've walked through the precise framework required to prevent it. Ownership, strict access control, and structured change management are your safeguards. So, take a hard look at your own organization's maturity right now. When that next script is pushed to production, is your next automation a solution or a disaster?